I'm going to talk about Asian contemporary artists today. Asian contemporary artists are actually a favorite. Art News reported Murakami's work as among the most desired in the world. Still very influential, influenced by Warhol, anime, and manga. And he's born in 1962, so what does that make him? He's in his late 50s. And then is the name of these works. And so this is acrylic on canvas on board in two parts. The term super flat is associated with his type of art. His work is also classified as neo-pop. So he's in there with Jeff Koons, and certainly Yayoi Kusama, although she's technically pop art as well because she's led such a long life, but she also fits in with neopop as well. Colorful, bold, vibrant, often related to pop culture, and shows Asian influence in this particular case anyway. Neopop does not always show Asian influence, but certainly Takashi's does. So anime inspired style art is used by other artists as well. Anime is a big deal right now. It's very, very popular, combining the flatness of commercial graphic design and the hypersexualized cartoon characters of Japanese comics as well, with the aesthetic concerns of fine art. So that's the long answer for what his art is. But I think after this, you'll at least have an idea of. Murakami received his BFA, MFA, and PhD from the Tokyo National University of Fine Arts and Music. Pretty impressive. And he studied traditional Japanese painting, Nihonga. Now, these are not examples of his work. It was simply under Nihonga. I did not come up with the artist on them. So in any case, Nihonga basically just means traditional Japanese painting. And I have a thing for dragons, so I use the dragons. So now the term is in fairly common use, but it originated during the Meiji period to distinguish Japanese painting from Western style oil painting. Flower Matango by Japanese artist Takashi Murakami. Look how playful he is. I mean, he has a pretty bold personality. So fiberglass, iron, acrylic, oil paint. He uses different materials, mixed media, and Asian artists are really taking off on the art world. He was doing extremely well, and then he started getting involved in films, and he had some financial struggles because film is pretty expensive to produce. But I'm sure he's going to be okay. I think Murakami's work is still pretty popular. So here we have Murakami in front of various different types of art, gold Buddha, and certainly this super flat with, again, they look like flowers with these big smiles. Here you see him shown with skulls, which is a Vanitas type symbol. Skulls have been used in art for centuries, of course, to denote that time is fleeting, carpe diem, seize the moment. Also, remember death is basically what memento mori means, so to carefully live your life. Hustle and Punch, 2009, acrylic and platinum leaf on canvas mounted on aluminum. Wow. So these are large works, and his work, I think it's so distinctive and so signature, and I would have loved to have seen that exhibit at Versailles, because again, the juxtaposition of a rather traditional background with this very, very brilliant and bright and colorful and playful and sometimes childlike, I think it would be an interesting juxtaposition to see. This has a fairly long title of Chinese Lions, Peonies, Skulls, and Fountains, 2011. So acrylic, wood panel. The lion equals power, guardian figure. Peonies, king of flowers, wealth, beauty, and fountain, abundance, plenty. And skulls are wrathful deities and part of ritual. And part of course, mortality as well. Here you can see more details of some of these skulls, and they do look kind of cartoony as well. So Memento Mori, Reminder of Death, and this is called End of the Line, 2011. And these skulls are actually arranged in a long line as well. Acrylic on canvas mounted on board. And again, they're huge, 118 by 92 inches. I saw this in Los Angeles not too very long ago. And this is startling when you see it, quite honestly. And Murakami's work often has this strong sexual undertones, but I don't think these are more overtones. I mean, you cannot miss it. As you turn the corner and see her, it's like, wow. And she's super big, she's tall, and definitely oversized, and certain parts of her have been extremely oversized, and this is called 3M Girl. And so 2011, and I saw it at the now extant Marciano Foundation. Marciano Foundation was on Wilshire Boulevard, really great place to see contemporary art, and the Guess brothers owned it. They owned Guess jeans, Guess purses, Guess everything, and I think it was an opportunity to show some of their art and to promote different artists. And then when the workers asked to unionize, they just shut it down. They didn't argue. They didn't do anything. They just shut it down. So it was kind of startling because it was there one day and it was gone. And I think I went there a half dozen times. I'm glad I did now because, of course, it's no longer there. So anime influenced sculpture, hypersexualized. Again, this is one of the features of neopop and certainly of anime and comics, etc. Arhat, Sanskrit for one who is worthy. In Buddhism, a perfected person, one who has gained insight into the true nature of existence and has achieved nirvana, or spiritual enlightenment. The Arhat, having freed himself from the bonds of desire, will not be reborn. And so this is, again, done in these long ribbons. It's, again, very bold, very, very different. So this is a drawing from traditional Japanese painting, sci-fi, anime, and global art market. Again, this is very elaborate and very, very detailed. And so, I don't know, I just think his work is so creative. It's so bold. And when you see it, it is so much better when you see it in a museum. I can't even tell you. It's indescribable. He seamlessly blends commercial imagery, manga, anime, traditional Japanese styles into his work. Certainly fantasy and technology are there as well. And there are some really good videos on Takashi Murakami, so I will include some of those as well. Yayoi Kusama, a great favorite with many of my artists. And feminist artists, pop art, and these vibrant installations are just absolutely wild. She's loved art. She was producing art as a young child. Her family would take away her art materials. They did not want her to be an artist. They wanted her to have a very traditional life. They wanted her to get married, preferably to someone wealthy, and to have a family, and that's what they wanted for her. She didn't want that. And in the 1960s, she came to the United States, where she certainly struggled for a long time as an artist to get her name out there. And she's tremendously famous now, but it didn't happen overnight. She worked long and hard for it. She actually wrote George O'Keeffe before she came to the United States about her troubles as an artist, and George O'Keeffe is the one who said, you need to come to the United States. And she was right. And so she sees the world in dots. She actually today lives in Japan. She has a studio near a mental institution where she also lives part-time. So she's free to come and go, and she often expresses herself in her art. She also expresses herself in her poetry. I admire her a great deal because she was determined to do what she wanted to do, even when art materials were taken away from her as a child. She was just determined. So born 1929, again, she's getting up there now. She has been described as an obsessional artist, and that's the way she sometimes describes herself as well. And she is certainly, again, preoccupied with dots. And her colors tend to be very, very bold and very distinctive. I mean, after you understand the aesthetic of Kusama, you walk down the street and look over and you'll, even if it's in a different color or different style, you will recognize the aesthetic. So little formal training, studied art only briefly. Family conflict and desire to become an artist drove her to move in 1957, and she was in New York City. And so before leaving Japan, she destroyed many of her early paintings, which is sad. And so here you can see her. And they really wanted her to do what her sister had done, which had been to marry a businessman, an affluent businessman, and be successful. And so did not really have much patience for anything else. Princess of the Polka Dots, she's been called. And she also was commissioned to do Louis Vuitton purses and accessories and windows. She has a very colorful, bold personality, but she can also be kind of quiet and laid back. But I'll also include some clips on her. Her influences, I think, are pretty clear. Certainly, you can see Warhol in her work, a sense of repetition of forms, and she certainly is very much part of pop culture, and a lot of my students just absolutely adore her. Really, really cool artist. And she's also well known for her net paintings, and that's one of those is shown above. So early on, there was a preoccupation with these infinity nets, these little tiny meticulous dots. Do we still have this connection to dots, this interest in dots? Oh, yeah. So she produced canvases measuring 33 feet in width. She also was doing performance art. And she also has done those incredible infinity rooms. The one that is at the Broad is, of course, hugely popular. And she literally sees the world in dots. So whatever brain circuitry or whatever, she sees the world in dots. And she basically has made us see her world. And so here is an example of many of her infinity nets. So 1990, 1960s, I mean, yeah, there's some definite similarities then and now. Her work is certainly consistent. So here you can see a picture of her. This is taken a number of years ago. And there also is a number of images of her as a young woman in this as well. The pumpkins in the top corner, those were my pumpkins for Halloween last year. I was on a Yayoi Kusama kick, and so I painted a number of them. There are more than that, but yes, that would be appropriation. I have taken some of her ideas and I have appropriated them. It's a nice way of saying copying, but I changed certain aspects of it, and so gave it my own spin. So those are Yayoi Kusama. And so here we have some interesting pictures of her. She often dresses like her artworks, which I think is completely cool. I mean, if I saw a Yayoi Kusama dress, would I buy it? I might. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so red dots, yellow dots. She often has that stoic expression too. She's certainly not one to smile. She's kind of has a real flat personality sometimes. Even when she is speaking, it's kind of monotone. So meditation, 1993. Here you see her as a young woman. Here she's even decorated the horse with dots. I love it. Phalluses, kind of a potato shape, also show up in her work repeatedly as well. So her very circumspect, proper family, do I think they might have a problem with a lot of her art? Oh yeah. I don't know that she ever got any acceptance from them whatsoever. Narcissus Garden, 1966. So this was installation, again, very much way before her time. It was installation had started, but again, she was right in there. So Louis Vuitton creative director Marc Jacobs first met 83-year-old Kusama in 2006 and became enraptured by her endless energy and her ability to create. And she creates this world that never ends. And so, and this is from Vogue. Christie sold one of her works for just over $5 million, a record for a living female artist, but I'm sure her work continues to command very, very high rates. A polka dot has the form of the sun, which is a symbol of the energy of the whole world and our living life, and also the form of the moon, which is calm, round, soft, colorful, senseless, and unknowing. Polka dots become movement. Polka dots are a way to infinity. And so infinity dots, repetition, again, some phalluses. This is Yayoi Kusama. Beautiful young woman, too. Very striking. And then here she's, you can see the Louis Vuitton purse. And you can get one of those for around $3,000 maybe. That's probably to the low end. So Yayoi Kusama Heart, 1990s. And so dots, dots, and more dots. So, but she absolutely fascinates people. She certainly fascinates me. Snake, 1974. This is an installation in Japan. She has again traveled back and forth between Japan and the U.S. Accumulation, 1961. Walking on the Sea of Death, 1981. I mean, you can see her work is consistent despite the fact the decades separated. Violet Obsession. I love purple, so I particularly love this one. And here you see again the boat motif as well. Looks like an oar. Infinity Nets, 2004. And this was again from the Violet Obsession installation. More pink. Dots Obsession, mid-1990s. Heart of the Universe, so large dot, I guess. These infinity rooms are pretty sensational, however. So the souls of millions of light years away. And this is where you literally walk into a room and you experience all these mirrors, all these dots. It has to be a little bit disconcerting, actually. And you can do that at the Broad. You have to sign in the minute you get there because it's going to be hours wait. And then they page you via your phone, like you're trying to get into a restaurant. And then here's an example. Yui Min Jun, Smiles Are the Soul's Kisses, 2006. This is also an artist that comes off very stoic, and his personality comes off very flat. But his art is anything but. It's this overarching, crazy, wild smile, and you see it over and over and over again in his work. So Smiles Are the Soul's Kisses, 2006, lithography on paper. Lithography means writing on stone. In the early lithographs, they actually would make a print from soapstone. But his works do make me smile. They're playful. So Yui Min Jun, and this is a self-portrait over and over and over and over. He says the smile is happy, sad smile of Chinese people. He calls China politically immature. Do Yui Min Jun self-portraits make you laugh? They do me. They certainly make me smile. They're an oxymoron of sorts. These self-portraits evoke feelings of sympathy as well as humor. The depictions of himself in various poses laughing draw numerous diverse interpretations, although the general consensus is that while the self-portraits are meant to display humor, they also show the complexities found underneath the outer surface. And I would agree with it. It's grouped into what they call the cynical realism movement in China, but he resists this label. And so he attended Hebei Normal University, but his work is anything but normal, and studied oil painting. So this is from his Hat series, 2005. Here you can see his connection to Magritte. Magritte is often, motifs that often show up in Magritte's work is clouds. And so even the color of these particular clouds reminds me of some Magritte works. So and here is another example. And so certainly the first image is René Magritte, and the second one is Yui Min Jun, Sky. And the cranes are a symbol of longevity. They're a positive symbol in Asian culture, and they show up in a great many paintings. So one of the more curious ones here, it certainly looks surrealist to me as well. And then you see what looks like twins laughing here. So again, often he takes these traditionally Asian motifs and like that giant carp and uses those as well. And then you have the little putti in the sky that kind of looks back to art history as well. These little cherubs in the air. And as far as the bathing suit, who knows where he dreamt that up? But I particularly like the bathing suit with the blue eyebrows. Yui Min Jun's sculptural work in Vancouver. This was on loan in Vancouver, but they liked it so much that when it was time for it to go, they ultimately arranged for, I think a purchase of it, but the city was very resistant to give it back. So this is called Amazing Laughter. And so the donation actually came from Chip Wilson and his wife Shannon of Lululemon. So in any case, this was gifted to the city. The residents and tourists have fallen hard for the 14 painted bronze figures. At the very least, I think this is a real Instagram moment. I imagine people are posing with them all of the time. Today, anime and manga are extremely popular. You cannot even underestimate how popular they are. And it's still growing. Anime means animation, Japanese animation. And it's very, very distinctive, colorful, violent, some sexual, futuristic, and sometimes cute. So go figure, hand-drawn or computerized. It's also produced in other countries as well. Manga, a Japanese graphic novel, typically more for adults, is characterized with very stylized art. And manga has been around for a long time. So basically, comic strips more for adults. They've been produced since the 12th century. Hokusai, 1700s, produced some amazing monsters that technically you could classify as manga. And so this is also as Hokusai's ghost there. Really strange, but fun and playful. Anime often have large eyes, figures sometimes very slender, sometimes a little tiny nipped-in waist, sometimes very, very large breast, lots of sharp angles. Some figures sometimes have big heads. Again, there's no easy definition since the industry is still exploding. 90s, early 2000s, popularity took off. Certain shows can be attributed to the genre's growth. Dragon Ball Z, mid-1990s, Pokemon, 1998, certainly appealed to a younger mainstream audience, but also older audiences also liked the genre and films and the work of Miyazaki. Pretty fun. This is makeup inspired by anime. She has her eyes closed if you look close. Pokemon, a disease that started as a quote in Tokyo, infected Game Boys in Japan in 1995. In 1998, it affected Game Boys in America. Cartoon Network was next infected. The Game Boy Advance systems got infected in 2002. In 1999, the disease started spreading via cardboard Pokemon trading cards. Nintendo 64 and Nintendo GameCube are infected too. Now in Walmart, Kmart, Toys R Us, which Toys R Us is really no more. So same with Kmart, sadly. And here are some examples of these Pokemon characters that are so big. And of course, it wasn't so long ago people were running around with their phones in parks chasing these creatures on their phone. It became quite the thing for a while. So, in any case, the major difference between anime and American cartoons is that unlike American cartoons, which are mainly watched by children, anime is popular among Japanese adults and watched by millions. Ninja Scroll, 1993. Most people place roots of anime manga in the early 1900s and associated with World War II. 1890s woodblock print is shown here, which are really kind of interesting because it really, to me, doesn't look really like 1800s. It looks very almost present day. By the 1940s, animation organizations were fully developed in Japan. So the government used some cartoonists who were not banned from working or who were not in the army to influence people through their artwork by creating comic strips filled with propaganda to use against the nation's enemies. If you haven't ever seen Evil Mickey from 1936, it's kind of wild. You can certainly see it's Evil Mickey is poking at American culture and certainly Disney culture as well. Yoshitomo Nara. Nara was born in a rural area of Japan to working parents. He spent his time alone with only his imagination, comic books, and family pets. The paintings, drawings, and sculptures of these innocent, wide-eyed children and dogs are his trademark in an attempt to capture a childhood sense of boredom, frustration, and the fierce independence natural to children. So part of Tokyo pop art. They're, real simplified forms, but they're very appealing. At least I think so. Hayao Miyazaki, born 1941, internationally known filmmaker, animation director, nicknamed the Japanese Walt Disney. He also has worked with Disney, who have promoted and circulated his films as well. Briefly retired, and then he came out of retirement. And so here you can see him working with his watercolors. Legendary filmmaker, collaborated with Studio Ghibli. He's directed 10 fantastic films as of 2011, making his first feature-length film in 1979. In the 80s, people really started getting intrigued by his films, and he's continued to be very popular. Perhaps most known for Spirited Away. This, again, magical, fun, haunting, poignant, amazing tale of an animated film, a full-length animated film of a girl who gets trapped in a world of spirits after her parents get caught eating food presented to the spirits. This is Hayao Miyazaki. So again, these are only some of the Asian artists that are very prominent today, and I need to continue to explore many more.